Daily programs are in three parts. If you're watching a wild animals hunting games in the morning, public executions at midday, gladiatorial contests in the afternoon. Now, to be professional hunters hunting animals using just a light javelin. Or gladiators fighting wild beasts. The ancient writers report things like 100 bears all at the same time in arena with an army of gladiators. Or 400 lions killed in a single day in arena of this building. There be fights between bulls and bears, bulls and elephants. We know the leopard named Victor that killed 19 hunters in the event of this building, becoming some sort of a celebrity. Or they would actually tie a bull to an elephant, or they would tie a dog to a bull. There were dogs specifically bred and trained to hunt lions. There were things like robbing a criminal with the scent of a female lion, and then pushing him in the arena with 3 or 4 really hungry male lions. We had two options. What do you think happened? It seems that the lions didn't fall in love, but that was really done. And showing exotic animals at the Colosseum was also a way to show people how far their own empire was expanding. It's part of the imperial propaganda. The wild animals used for the executions as well, of the lowest criminals. Crimes like arson, robbery, murder, and treason would have brought you into the arena. The men who were supposed to be killed were rubbed with the blood of an antelope or a similar animal to make it more inviting for the wild beasts. The wild animals are kept in complete darkness and with no food for up to a week. So by the time they were let into the arena, they were furious and angry. And some slaves would be on the floor of the arena, to tease the wild animals with spikes, whips and so on. Because the cheering crowds would have been terrifying for the animals. But there were different other ways of having people killed in here. Now, you can watch these bizarre combats in which a fully armed man fought a man who only had a little tiny sword and no protection for his body. The fully armed man will most likely kill his opponents, then let the fighting gear stripped off, and still tired from the previous fight, he had to fight another fully armed man. And that went on until everybody was dead, except for the last one. He would have been the first one in the list of the following day. These kind of fights are called in Latin sine missione, with no release, no way out. Or sometimes you could watch mythological representations as well. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with the myth of Icarus, who had wax wings and he flew too close to the sun. He just melted, right? The Romans got the poetic side of that story. They put some wings on a criminal and then they dropped him from a really high point. Inevitably, this kind of representations are ending with the death of one of the actors, just more executions. And you'll be finally watching the gladiators in the afternoon. Those are the highlights of the day at the Colosseum. At least 14 different types of gladiators. So the one was really tall and big, like an American football player. He had this large oblong shield, a relatively long sword, and really heavy armor. He'd be called the Samnes. His traditional opponent was a man, maybe smaller than him, but faster, more agile, with a round shield, a short sword with a curved blade, and a light armor. The most, I'd say, original kind of gladiator was the netman, who had to catch his opponent with a net and kill him with a trident, a 3-point spear. But the only part, the netman's body, that was protected was the left shoulder and the left arm. Here there's some sort of a sleeve, a special protection. The rest of the body was unprotected, even the head. Because the netman had to move as quickly as possible, running around his opponents. No helmet was an advantage, it offered a better viewing range. Helmet would only allow usually a 50 degrees viewing range. And, typically, the leader would be training for a year before he fought his first three of fights. Then he'd be fighting 2 or 3 times a year. The ones that fought at the Colosseum were the most experienced, popular, and expensive ones. As one of those gladiators was killed, the emperor to pay a refund to the agents. So generally, they were not killed as easily as you might have seen in the movies. In the 1st century AD, according to the records that we have, only 1 out of 6 fights would have been ending with the death of a man. It is also true, though, that the games became more and more gruesome as time went by, but due to the fight, there was a decrease in the number of spectators. We're trying to, attract more people. And in the arena of this building, usually, there'd be 2 referees per fight, somewhat precise rules. A fight could be stopped by the referees simply to have gladiators drink some water, or to have a doctor check on somebody's wounds. As the man was unable to continue fighting because he was wounded, if he still could, he'd be dropping his shield, and he'd be raising his left arm to ask for mercy. This meant, I surrender. so the referees would break the fight. And as the crowd was shot and save him or kill him, which is part of the final coming here, the emperor showed his decision. That was maybe done by showing the thumbs out, as in you'll die, right? Or the thumbs in, as in a sword, as to go back into the shit so you live. Or in alternative, the emperor could say misso, which meant release, free to go. The thumbs up and the thumbs down are a myth that came from a wrong translation of an ancient writer, made popular by movies. Following this one, that man had to be killed. And the crowd would be shouting, Jugula, Jugula, which meant cut the jugular. Because if the loser was still on his feet, he would have to drop on his knees, raise his head up, and the man would have stabbed him through the throat. If the loser was already on the ground, his opponent would have finished him off by stabbing him through the heart, as quickly and as cleanly as possible, while the other man had to be facing death, showing no fear. So then he had to get rid of that body. You couldn't just leave it there. 4 bizarre characters would be running out from the gate of the dead onto the floor arena wearing black robes and a strange hat with donkey's ears. They represented a mythological figure, the ferryman of the river of the underworld. One of those men was carrying a scalding iron rod, another one a big heavy hammer, the other two a metal hook. The first one made sure that Godito was really dead. He burnt him. If by chance the man was still alive, he would say, ouch. The hammer would have obviously smashed his head to the ground. Not a pretty sight. The other two would quickly hook that body. They would drag it out through the gate of the dead, down to the morgue. They would just strip off the fighting gear, which was expensive, and unless a friend or a relative, somebody, was willing to pay for a proper burial, that body would have most often ended up into one of those large ditches where men and animals were not infrequently buried all together, even in large piles. The bodies are also burned, and parts of human skeletons were found even in the sewage system under this building. We could only very roughly estimate how many people were killed in here on the basis of the few records we have, but we could say that no less than 700,000 were killed in the Colosseum for the sake of public entertainment. If this building was in England, it'd be full of ghosts. But in Rome we had the Pope, so there is no ghosts. Questions, anybody?
So was all this built, I guess, with slave labor, or how was it built?
No, on the contrary, they required such large, complex work. There had to be a highly specialized workforce. So mainly specialized workers, and then slaves for the heavy, dangerous part of the labor, demolition and so on. But you have to have training engineers, you have to have the masons, you have to have bolting engineers and so on. So you need a specialized workforce or something, such large, public work. Plus, it was an incentive for the economy as well, the economy of the city. There was both the same problems we have today. It wasn't that much different.
Was there a fee to attend the games here?
No, the games were always offered free of charge by the emperors. These games are an ancient political tradition, actually, initially offered by politicians before the elections by potential voters, to gain their favor. Later on, the emperors took over, and the emperor only could offer this kind of shows to the population of Rome because, the games are a powerful political instrument to, manipulate the crowds. And the games are financed by slave labor. The average Roman emperor owned 200,000 slaves. Spoils of war, typically following the conquer of a new province. There could be months straight of games, using a spoils of war to finance the games, and the prisoners of war, as a human material for the games. And also taxes. The Romans never paid properly called taxes until the 2nd century AD, but the conquered provinces were paying taxes to the Romans. The Romans did not conquer the territory unless it was economically productive.
When was the last year record when they had the games?
523 AD is the last record of a show held at the Colossium. So the building was in operation from 80 to 523 for almost 450 years. The last gladiatorial contest was held 85 years earlier, though. In 434, Valentino III banned all gladiatorial contests in the Roman Empire. So during the last 85 years, probably only had the wild animals hunting games in here. Any more questions? Okay, this way.